pleasant good morning and welcome to all of Mike King's friends in Belarus who are listening. And of course, wherever you are around this world. Mike King in Las Vegas. And yeah, Mike, I did miss the NAB again. And Charles Moskowitz in lovely Boston, Massachusetts. Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning. Good morning.
Oh, wait a minute. I hear a new voice. Who's this?
It's Comrade Connolly.
Oh, it's Comrade Connolly from the Eastern Bloc. The Eastern Bloc of Houston, that is. Of East Texas, yes. How are you?
I want to apologize in advance. The sound quality might not be as good today because one of my business partners, Sean Greider, our geologist and president of our oil company, and I are headed to beautiful Luling, Texas today. And we're driving because Air Luling was all booked up. So
Air?
We are...
Where in the hell are you? What is this place?
We are headed to the early spot of the Texas Hill Country, but one of the most prolific production areas in the state before the Eagle Ford and the Permian exploded was the Austin Chalk. And then the leases that we're working on today have both Austin Chalk and Eagle Ford production in it, and we're going to go work on deals. So we're headed to the Hill Country to work on oil business.
You know, I remember you and Mike and Charles talking about, and Bill Chippis when he was here, about that Austin Chalk 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah. The Austin Chalk actually began production prior to World War II. It's one of the oldest and most prolific production areas in the state of Texas. And it's enjoying some resurgence now with new technology and new drilling processes. There are Austin Chalk wells that are producing 1,000 barrels a day on initial production and more, that the field was largely thought of as depleted, tired, and no one should ever go back there again. And now one of the biggest companies in the world, Intervest, is drilling actively there. Their CEO gave a speech we listened to recently where they've had numerous wells, over 1,000 barrels a day. So that's worth working on.
That's great. Yeah. Now, okay, so is this Hill Country? Is that somewhere around San Antonio?
Yeah, it's in between San Antonio and Austin. It's about 2 hours from Houston. It's probably 1 hour from San Antonio. And then the heart of the Eagle Ford is further west and south of this, but it definitely is in an area of Texas where there's been a lot of oil and gas produced.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, good luck, guys. Hopefully you can buy a few $1 million worth of oil wells today.
Well, the most important thing is the cost to produce oil in this area is very low because things like yesterday, when the president of the Kuwaiti Oil Company announced at the Offshore Technology Conference that we believe that we will have the lowest lifting cost in the world, and the winner with the lowest cost, the producer with the lowest cost wins. And that's when oil tanked yesterday.
Yeah, I noticed looking up at CNBC, and all I saw was red all the way across there.
Well, as we've talked about, this is going to be a business of the most efficient, almost along the lines of a manufacturing business. It's no longer wildcatters that go out and discover huge new fields. It's going to be all about technology, efficiency, and being able to produce at the lowest cost per barrel, or you're done. And even the Kuwaitis just yesterday said the same thing we've been saying on the air here for months. This is a long-term, low-price environment. We are not going to see $100 oil. If ever again, it's going to be years and years. And we're going to be in this stable environment between, if we're lucky, $45 to $55 a barrel. And if you can't make money there, you're going away.
Tim, what? Seriously, we're looking at all these, bizarre-looking automobiles or like these little car planes and stuff now. I mean, are they going to be powered by gas, or is this all going to be a whole new battery technology thing?
I think that while battery has its place in the market, you're not going to displace natural gas as being the primary feedstock for the biggest users throughout the world. It's just too easy. China, of course, is still the largest user of coal in the world, but eventually they're going to choke all the so many people, even in China, they miss them, and they'll have to go to cleaner burning fuels. And battery technology definitely does have a place in the market. Mike and I had a battery company years and years ago called Power Technology, and it had incredibly promising technology before its time. But the biggest problem with battery is the whole issue of storage and cost, and they're overcoming that on a daily basis, but it's not going to happen magically. It's going to be incrementally over time. And it's really the source of any kind of solar or wind power is ultimately going to have to be backed up with major batteries, or it just doesn't work. They produce all this electricity during periods of the day when people don't need it. And if they can't store it, it just dissipates. No batteries, no storage. So it is the single biggest issue in alternative production of electricity is how do you store from wind power and from solar power. That still has not been solved yet.
That's
I read an article about 3 or 4 weeks ago where there was actually a period of time where there was, in a specific area, and I don't remember where it was, that there was so much electricity being produced on a specific grid that the purchase of power on these reverse power purchase agreements with the local power company actually
became
went
a
negative.
minus number.
Yeah, became a minus number, actually went negative. The same way that, interest rates went negative in the short-term German paper where people who were producing electricity were actually paying to have it taken into the grid instead of being paid for it.
Well, and here's the problem. That happened in West Texas. Texas is now the largest producer of wind power in the United States. We are number one. Most people don't know that.
Well, you know what, Tim? What's very interesting is that a couple former students at Indian River State, and we had Florida Power and Light in here in the studio the other night, and they were talking about some of the former students here who are heading the wind units at Florida Power and Light in Texas and Oklahoma. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the problem is when you max out the grid when it doesn't need the electricity, that's exactly what the message of the market is it's minus. If you're going to use up our toll road and we can't use your power, you owe us money. And it's a real problem, and there's still a lot of disjointed subsidies in the market, too. The city of Austin, there was an article in the New York Times last Sunday, for those of you that like to read the Communist Manifesto.
Oh, you are bad.
The columnist lives in Austin. He is actually able to sell his excess power at 5 times the wholesale rate based on the Austin city policy that they've imposed on the electrical providers. Well, that's not going to last. Basic economics is going to win. And the reason we're going to see a market economy develop around alternative power is because all of these subsidies are going to go away. And, notwithstanding that Trump rolled over on Planned Parenthood and on a couple of other things to get the budget done, we're not going to see huge new subsidies for non-conventional energy. It ain't happening anymore.
No, wait a minute. Did Trump roll over or did Congress roll over Trump? I mean, it's like...
it's a combination.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally bizarre. But anyway, yeah. But, it is...
There is one good thing that happened out of it, though.
Yep.
Is I saw this morning in reading an analysis on it, and Mike, you'll enjoy this because you know we're about to get heavily involved in this again, is medical marijuana and the production and sale by marijuana clinics is specifically barred from the Justice Department of taking action against them for the period of the new budget through September 30th. And so, you've got 28 states that have legalized marijuana now, and Jeff Sessions said he doesn't care, he's going after them. It damaged a lot of those companies, but I think you're going to see a rally in the marijuana stocks today or tomorrow if people start reading this news.
Yeah, but Tim, until those shops, marijuana shops, can actually bank somewhere, like an FDIC type bank, what's it going to be? I mean,
they are going to state banks and they're going to credit unions right now. And part of the specific provision of the bill is the Justice Department is prohibited from interfering with the banking facilities of any medical marijuana clinic. That's in the bill.
Wow.
So it gives them some slack, but really it's only been the smaller community banks and the credit unions that have been putting their toe in the water on this. Because you're absolutely right. I was in Boulder recently, and they had 2 armed guards. It was a Friday afternoon, and I wanted to check out this medical marijuana clinic. And 2 armed guards with shotguns in their lap because the place had been robbed numerous times. And they were complaining it was because none of the banks would accept their cash. And what a problem to have.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Well, you always come out with news busters here. Usually it's oil, but now it's marijuana. That's interesting. The money info is now called marijuana.
I'm my bets here. If
Yeah.
oil goes a lot lower, I need to be in the marijuana business because I want it.
Well, if you have enough marijuana, your oil business is going to look great. Oh gosh, holy smokes! Well, you mentioned the New York Times. Did you see the story? Apparently, they had an opinion piece on global warming, and apparently a bunch of people canceled their subscriptions because it was a negative look at climate change.
It's the one piece of the New York Times that I don't read because it raises my blood pressure to a level that is unsustainable. I don't read the op-ed section.
No.
I read the...
That's where the marijuana comes in again, too.
Yeah, exactly. But
oh, my.
I just add the question, since we're driving along I-10 Luling and we are not listening to the news, what's happening with the opening of the market today? Where are we?
Down a little.
Yeah, it's down a little. Let me check CNBC here right now. As we look.
Single digits.
Yeah, it's...
Do you think it's
NASDAQ opened and made another new all-time high. Apple's up 75 cents. It has earnings today after the close. AMD had earnings last night after the close, and it's down. All of the auto companies have reported down numbers for the month. NASDAQ is down $6. The gold has turned up from down. The 10-year is 231. I saw trading as low as 229 and change this morning, and the oil is down 0.4%, and the S&P is down 70 cents. So there's really
oil
not
must
much.
be right at 48 and a quarter or something like that.
Yeah, right around there. There's really nothing going on. There's an FOMC meeting today and tomorrow. Not that there's going to be any action taken, but
no, you correctly
the problem with this.
that several weeks ago.
Yeah, the problem with this market right here is the fact that it's the leadership has gotten so very narrow, and this really creates a problem. The volatility index, the VIX, which doesn't really measure it's kind of a misnomer. They call it the volatility index, but it has nothing to do with the volatility of the market. It has to do with the number of puts bought versus the number of calls bought. And that doesn't measure volatility. That measures really more sentiment, whether people feel like they, have to buy protection. But the fact of the matter is that protection has gotten so cheap and people have become so complacent about the market at a period of time where, again, where the leadership of the market has gotten so very narrow. It's being run by a couple of stocks that are so heavily overweighted, like the Apple, which is both in the Dow, in the S&P, and in the NASDAQ 100. In fact, in the NASDAQ 100 and the Dow, the weighting of Apple is now 13%.
Holy
Google
smokes, I
is
didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We're coming into a period of time now where the market gets really sloppy. Everybody has said, we don't need the protection. Complacency is, very, very high. And that doesn't reflect at all the geopolitical risks, which are the fastest way to turn a market down. And we're coming into the summer, which traditionally the real volatility picks up because the volume decreases. And you have these vacuums under the market where there's just not that much participation, and the market becomes very, very unforgiving.
Well, doesn't that make it the time to write calls against your long positions then?
Well, that or to buy puts, and frankly, you get a lot of people who talk about all of the reasons why this time it's different. The fact of the matter is it's never different. It's never exactly the same, but it's also never different. And this complacency will absolutely catch up to the market.
Charles, did you see, and Tim, did you happen to catch Apple is sitting on $1 trillion in cash?
No.
Yeah.
They're sitting on roughly $275 billion.
Correct.
Most of that's outside the country.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and that's another issue because now everybody is talking about whether Apple or Google or Amazon will be the first $1 trillion company.
Wow. Yeah.
So, it's a race. It's a race to the top, and while everybody is focused on that race to the top, you're going to see things collapsing.
Well, CNBC had an interesting story, was it last week, I guess, about Amazon Prime buying BJ's, and that those BJ stores would be their local distribution centers. My goodness. Yep. I mean, that's perfect.
Makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
Because another thing that they were talking about is that, there are people who go into BJ's and the stock is not there. The inventory, not the stock, but the inventory is not there, as it used to be. I mean, the people who were doing the report, which I believe was Dana Telsey, Telsey Management, they were talking about the fact that, there's only, a couple of each item and sometimes just a display. And, of course, they'll ship it to you, for free if they don't have it in stock. But the fact of the matter is there's not a lot of stock backing up the displays. And so that makes it just that much more. It's funny because I always thought of BJ's because we have a bunch of them up here. The BJ's are much more prevalent up here than either Sam's Club or Costco. I guess it's more of a local brand in this area. But, it would make a lot of sense for both sides to be able, to use that as a distribution point.
Well, yeah, and when you think about drone delivery and stuff like that, I mean, it's amazing. We just had to go into a Staples store and actually order kind of a Wi-Fi router type device, but it was only on the web. Now, they're going to deliver that to us this afternoon. So it's a one-day delivery, and it's free. So it's like,
Right.
Wow, this is interesting. But, you look in their store, and what was a fully stocked store is not now.
I see the same thing here, even in the smaller companies. Office Max. Office Max is Office Max and
Used to be Office Depot,
not Staples, but Office Depot. Office Depot
Depot
and Office Max are now the same company. You go in there. I bought an HP, all-in-one computer about 6 months ago.
Yep.
With a great big screen, and that's what I use. They didn't have it. They had it on sale, and they didn't have it. And so, but they had the touch screen, but they didn't have the non-touch screen. So I ended up buying the touch screen only because I could walk out with it. And it was the same thing, but I needed it that day because mine blew up overnight, and I couldn't be without it, so I had to take something else. But you're right, it was, we'll get it to you tomorrow, we won't charge you for it. I just couldn't wait.
All right, so you keep hearing about the woes of retail, and what's going to happen? You think, all right, is there only going to be an Amazon Prime out there? Are we going to, lose all the malls and stuff like that? I mean, all you keep hearing about is Penny's closing, Sears closing, and Macy's closing. I mean, it's like, okay, what's going on here? And how would you like to be a mall owner, like Simon?
Yeah.
Oh, I hate to look at
I've been
stuff.
saying that for a year.
I know you have.
Because these malls, you can't repurpose any of these malls. It's like, what are you going to do with them? I mean, you can't use them for housing.
Well, the one
here.
here.
The interesting thing is in Houston.
Yep.
One of the largest retail malls near in was anchored by a micro center. They ended up closing, and it was taken over by the Houston Community College. So it went from being a retailer that produced millions in taxes for the economy to a governmental entity that pays no taxes.
Wow.
Right?
Well, they had turned a mall in Fort
big swing.
Pierce. Yeah, it is. They turned a mall in Fort Pierce, and there again, the school board's in there, the elections office is in there, and then there's some.
I mean, this was kind of a foregone conclusion, because how many Macy's, and the next group will be the drugstores. How many Walgreens do you need?
Oh, yeah,
in a town of 10,000?
Yeah, you got them on every corner. Yeah, and they're.
I mean, how many CVS's do you need?
They're on the other corner.
How can these companies not cannibalize their own sales in a small town, or even an intermediate town, or even in a group of small towns? I mean, think about it like from the standpoint of where I live, or down to the Cape, where every single small town has multiple numbers of each of these. I mean, and they're in clusters. There's Walgreens across the street from the CVS, and a block away is the Rite Aid.
Tim, what about Texas? Do they have like local pharmacies anymore there?
Very rarely.
Yeah.
The one local pharmacy we used to have, called the Avalon Drug Store, had two of them. One closed down. The other one barely does any business as a pharmacy. It's kind of a catch-all, and I predict it'll close soon. And what we're seeing now, Charles, did you see the article this week on the apple growers are now using robotics because they can't get labor out into the apple fields now? And they're predicting that apple harvest will be all robotic within the next 24 months.
You know,
I'm not talking
there was
2020.
one very, very funny joke at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. There was a comedian who came up who was Muslim and said, so, you know, here I am again. You guys couldn't get anybody to do this job, so who's here? A Muslim refugee doing the job that nobody else wanted.
That's great.
Welcome, Terry Howlett of Skin Visible.
Ah,
Hello, Mike.
hey.
Good morning.
Yes,
Good morning, everybody.
Yeah, speaking of one of those foreign guys, who's from the frozen tundra of, let me see, what are we going to call this stuff? I mean, if Trump's going to redo the NAFTA thing, I mean, Mexico wants to call it the Commerce of the Americas or something. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, then they'll have to include Cuba.
God. Yeah, man, what a political bombshell we've got down here, and that's it. Cuba. Holy smokes.
Well, Cuba's north of Mexico. If you look
Cuba,
Uh,
at it on the map.
Oh, come on.
Cuba in Miami is like the stepson nobody likes to talk about.
Yeah, well, actually, we'd love to just shove Miami. That's where, you know, if the seas rise a little bit, that'd be great. Float Miami down there by Cuba. That would be fine.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I have to apologize. We're about to get into a dead cell zone. I would definitely like to hear the story of Skin Visible, and I know, Mike, if you could introduce me, Gary Cella recommended highly that I get to meet this gentleman, and I would like to. And otherwise, I'll apologize and hang up for this week, and thanks for having me on the show.
Well,
You are welcome. Thank you so much.
You've been making news, and it seems like every time you come on, there's even more news. Hey, thanks a million. Terry, how you been, fella?
Been great, thank you. How you guys doing?
Well, we were talking in front of your back about medical marijuana and stuff like that. So just want to let you know.
Great.
Just want to let you know. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, that's what we like to chat about this morning because we're getting excited about the opportunity.
Really? Okay, so
yeah.
What's new?
Well, we're getting a lot of interest. A little background, as you know, Skin Visible is a developer of a topical delivery system. We have 14 patents on this topical delivery system, and while we do not develop new drugs, we do have a delivery system that delivers drugs to the skin for what we feel is better, and we've been able to show that why it's better than maybe what's on the market today. I always say maybe because you never know. But our delivery system, we can almost control the release. It's almost like a controlled release of the active ingredient out of a solution, so it doesn't matter whether it's a product for anti-aging or a skincare product for cancer, precancerous lesions. So we've developed that delivery system, and then we were introduced last summer to marijuana and said, well, if you've got a good delivery system that you talk about, could you deliver marijuana? And when we think of marijuana, we think of there's two ingredients that are important in there. One is CBD, which is the ingredient that's more for pain management, for healing. And then there's the psycho, the THC, that gives you the high, that really works on the receptors in the brain. The CBD works on the receptors in the organs of the body, and of course the skin being the biggest organ can help with that area. So anyway, so we got involved. We've developed some products using CBD from hemp. Hemp is a as you know, is a plant grown in the U.S. and everywhere. Although farmers that grow hemp in the United States cannot sell the hemp for the use of oils. You have to import it. But anyways, we've developed that with hemp and been very successful for both the topical and the transdermal. So we've developed those, and now we're within weeks of moving into a facility here, a state-approved facility in Nevada, marijuana facility, a production facility, where we can then work on the THC and THC/CBD combos. So a little update from last summer from our first introduction to where we're at today, and we have lots of interest in it. That's what's exciting for us.
Wow. Now, are you going to be out by the airport, or?
Our office is not very far from the airport here. We're located here in just east of the airport in Las Vegas. But
okay.
We're working with other facilities, and here's the part about it that's, I guess, offers opportunity in the fact that you cannot make marijuana-infused products in one state and sell them over the state line. Right now, there's 28 states that have approved medical marijuana, and that's what we're interested in. We're not interested so much in the recreational side of it as we're interested in the medical side of it. So there's